Welcome in. It is Big Ten Today. It is great to have you with us on this Tuesday. Dave Revs and Trent Meacham. Today is February 13th. You know what March 13th is?
Well, I know what tomorrow is too. February 14th.
Tomorrow's
March
an important
13th. Is that the start of the Big Ten tournament?
First day of the Big Ten tournament.
And there's so much that could happen in the next month. That's what's exciting.
We are a month away from the start of the Big Ten tournament. You should start to plan your life accordingly. And what is to come is our big story. Here's where we are right now. Jockeying for position, of course, has begun. Purdue's opened up a 2-game lead in the loss column over Illinois. Still one head-to-head game between those two. Northwestern, Wisconsin next. Remember, the Badgers won the lone meeting there, so they're ahead of Northwestern. After that, you have 7 teams with either 6 or 7 conference losses, so all within 2 games of third place in the loss column, and then Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan behind them. So a month until the tourney, I think it's time to start thinking about a bracket. Of course, the top 4 get double byes. Minnesota, remember, is the de facto host. It's in Minneapolis. They would get a bye to Thursday, as would Michigan State, both awaiting Wednesday winners. Thursday would also include matchups between Penn State and Indiana and Nebraska and Iowa. And how about the teams playing on day 1? 3 of those 4 teams have played in the national championship game in this century. Pretty crazy to think about that. Lots can change between now and then, but I know, Trent, you want to talk about some teams that are trending up today. Where are you starting?
And you want to be moving in the right direction this time of year.
The way you want to be trending.
I'm going to be starting with the Spartans. Okay, Michigan State, they've won 6 out of their last 7. And when I look ahead, okay, they're 7-6 in conference now. When I look ahead, it would not surprise me. I would expect them to win 5 or 6 of their next conference games. Wouldn't shock me if they're in that 2 or 3 spot as we hit March 13th, heading into the Big Ten tournament. I just like how this team is trending, how they're playing. I look at their most recent game, win against Illinois, scored 88 points. The key for the Spartans, in my eyes, are Malik Hall and A.J. Hoggard. Those two combined for 55 points in that game. When they're aggressive, when they're getting downhill, when they're getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line, Hoggard 12 for 13, Hall 7 for 9. I think this team, that sets this team apart, and they can beat anyone.
Team that has won 6 of their last 8 games. And it's funny, we think about the struggles they had shooting those first couple of games. During this 8-game stretch where they've won 6 of their last 8, have shot 41% from 3. This has turned into one of the better outside shooting teams in the Big Ten. And I think it gets to kind of the point that you were talking about with Walker and Hoggard. They have really good guards. And when you think about the NCAA tournament and who wins in March, to me it's guard play. And Michigan State has great guard play.
Tom is on the sideline, experienced guards, guys that can close out games. That was the difference against Illinois. A.J. Hoggard made plays. Tyson Walker made it seem like a number of difficult shots. When you have guys that can go get you a bucket, when there's not much, when your offense is stalled, Michigan State has a few of those guys. They dump the ball down to Malik Hall as well. Speaking of guards, Jay Nakins has had his moments where he's shooting the ball better. Trey Holloman's been more quiet lately, but he's shown he's been a capable and pretty consistent shooter. So you have guys off the bench that can give you some firepower. I love their guard play. They have go-to options down the stretch. Their defense has improved, and when they're getting stops, they're out in transition, they're off to the races. That's where they're at their best.
Even when they don't get stops, they're off to the races. One of the really cool things about them, the way that they transition from a made basket by their opponent. We've got them against Penn State tomorrow night here on the Big Ten Network. We'll talk more about that matchup in a bit. All right, so Michigan State is your first trending up. Where are you going next?
Well, Nebraska. This team's been a bit up and down. Big win at home. Now, they're so good at home.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can they get some wins at home on the road? That's where they've struggled because this is a team that they thrive off rhythm. And I think defense is the key because if they get stops, now they're out in transition. They play with some flow, some rhythm. They play differently. It's spaced. It's 5 out. They're 5-man. Enrique Mask can space the floor. Great facilitator. Can also knock down shots. They've gone to a bigger lineup, though, recently, putting Juwan Gary, Josiah Alec, and Mast in their starting lineup. So this is a big group. They also have depth off the bench. I like them. You get into the guts of a season, and it's just a grind. Players are going to be up and down. Tominaga's not going to make these crazy shots every night.
Right.
But you got C.J. Wilcher coming off the bench. They have 4 guys in double figures. Wilcher's at about 9 points a game. He's capable of going for 20-plus. So I love the depth. I love the style of play. And finally, I'd say Fred Hoiberg, I think as a coach, his demeanor, his poise, he's been there as a player, he's been there in the NBA. I love the composure that he brings, and I think that's going to suit them well as they progress forward.
He really likes this team. I had their game against Illinois. I mean, we've talked about they're not great on the road. They had the lead with 10 seconds to go in that game, and Illinois got to the free throw line and was able to force it into overtime. You do wonder about, 0-7 on the road in the conference. They have a really nice win at Kansas State, so it's not like the committee's going to look at them and say this is a team that's incapable of winning road games, and it doesn't matter if you win conference road games or non-conference road games. But I also look at these last three, Indiana, Ohio State, Michigan on the road. I think you should be able to get at least one of those, maybe multiple of those, and I think that would just kind of build their confidence, would certainly build their resume as well.
That's what they need. They're 7-7 now, so you got 6 games left. Can you win all your home games? I expect them to. Can you get one on the road? Now they're at 11-9. Could they get 2? That's a stretch. Maybe they'd be at 12-8 though. I like how they're playing. I like their depth. I like their coach. They also have experience. I expect them to continue playing well, maybe get a win or 2 on the road, and feeling great about themselves heading into March.
Looking to make it to the tourney for the first time in 10 years. This feels like a tourney team. I feel like when I watch them, I mean, certainly at home, they look like world beaters. I mean, they didn't just beat Purdue at home. They obliterated Purdue at home. Was not close down the stretch. Again, the challenge is, can you take that on the road as well? And we'll see here, but you can see why people in Lincoln are so enthusiastic about this team. Those are your top 2 trending up. Where are you going next?
Next, I'm going to Rutgers, winners of 3 straight. Okay, they have the number 2 efficient defense in the country, according to KenPom. They've been fantastic there all season. Amori with 8 blocks last game against Wisconsin, just dominated a good Badger team. So they've been good on that end of the floor. And all of a sudden, Jeremiah Williams' transfer is coming into their lineup. 14-5-5 in the 3 games, the 3 wins that he's been in the lineup. And it feels like he's just unlocked something for them offensively. Gives them another guy that's experienced, that's talented, that can make shots, that you can put the ball in his hands. So it's not just Derek Simpson trying to play hero ball, bailing them out in possessions. You have a guy that's a proven scorer. You insert him there. Now they have some ability on offense. Mawat Mag's playing better in the 3 most recent games. You have a guy like Noah Fernandez knocking down shots off the bench.
Yeah.
Look, if they're making shots like they did against Wisconsin, nobody wants to see them because they're so good on defense. And now offensively, it just feels like there's a rhythm and a flow there. And hey, they're 5-7 now. Okay, so they got 8 games left in the conference race. We'll see if they can continue this winning style. And who knows, they could surprise some people.
They could. They're the second most efficient defense in the country overall this year. So if you just have some modicum of offense, I mean, that was the issue for much of the year. They were just so stagnant on the offensive end. Williams brings them a different kind of player, and I think that's what has really helped them. He is a guy who can go get his own, right? Really athletic, and it just feels like he adds a dimension that they hadn't had before. But you look at that 3-game stretch, and defensively, I mean, they've been ridiculous. Under 0.8 points per possession for their opponents during this 3-game winning streak. It's incredible. Even with their offense still not being great, they've still in that 3-game stretch been the second most efficient team when you factor offense and defense in the Big Ten. So I think this is one of those teams where, look, they're not going to go out and score 90 on you. It's just not how they're built. But, man, they are suffocating in the half court, and they're getting just enough on the offensive end.
In that 3-game stretch, 2 of those on the road, and then you have a home game against Wisconsin. Yeah. So those are 3 big wins. It feels like this team is playing with an appreciation, a looseness that, they're not scared to lose. They've already lost quite a bit. They've already had a lot of people, okay, they're already looking forward to next year. Well, now you got a guy that gives them an edge offensively in Jeremiah Williams. You combine that with their defense. Others have upped their game. They're playing confident. They're playing free and loose. And that's a great recipe for upsets and for success. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they continue, especially as teams, now they know Jeremiah Williams. Now they'll be more prepared facing them.
Yeah, how about him? First week in the Big Ten, he's Big Ten Player of the Week.
This is easy, nothing, right?
Yeah. This is simple. Give me one more before we wrap this up.
Now, this is a different take. Okay, Iowa, 6-7. Their remaining schedule is brutal.
Yes,
they're going on the road to Maryland, to Michigan State, to Northwestern. They got Illinois twice. They got Wisconsin. Brutal stretch, but I like it. It seems like they have a competitive spirit, some leadership on that roster. You look at that game Sunday against the Gophers, down by 20. Peyton Sanford plays with a spark. I think he could play in the NBA. I think he's that type of player, can knock down shots. I love Tony Perkins, the edge that he brings. He's been consistent all season. They went to a little bit of a different lineup in that second half. And they spread the floor because Patrick McCaffrey was playing great. Dix, Perkins, Sanford, and Owen Freeman as a freshman, 17 and double-double, 4 rebounds or 4 assists, blocking shots. So they spaced the floor more. They were really good on the defensive end. Of course, it helped that Garcia was out with that injury, but I thought defensively they locked down, which they did not do on the road against Penn State to close out that game. And then, that offense gets going. So a brutal stretch, but this is kind of a feel thing, Dave. I like the fight that I'm seeing from them, and they can fill it up. So we'll see if they can get some big wins and really propel them into March.
This is a team that, frankly, needs a brutal stretch. I mean, if we're talking about going into the Big Ten tournament and seeding, no one wants that. But if we're talking about actually trying to make it to the NCAA tournament, they have no quad one wins. But 5 of their last 7 games are quad one opportunities. I think they have shown us that this is a team that's capable of scoring with anyone. So if you can lock down enough on the defensive end, who knows? You win a few of those games. Bubble's pretty soft this year. Maybe a team that can work its way into that conversation.